Hello, Brian Percival here, pleased to meet you. Now, if you've already seen one of these intros, they're all the same. Just go to the timestamp here to get to the content. You'll need to watch this once. All I'm doing briefly is just explaining what's going on. Now, I stopped doing videos about 2 or 3 years ago. Because a lot of stuff was going on and I basically just didn't have time. It was as simple as that. So what I've done is now that I'm going back to it, I'm consolidating everything onto one channel. So there's going to be one place for all the content I do. It's not going to be spread around everywhere anymore. So as anyone who's seen my stuff before knows that I love a jump cut. I love nothing better than a jump cut, basically because I can't be bothered editing properly. Especially when it's just the stuff like this. So I've decided that I'm just going to put everything under my own name now. Like, nothing's going to be by aliases or anything like that. And mostly I've got fed up with the Pickled Onion Night channel because, well, why go under an alias? It's like people that have still got like a name they invented when they were at school, like Peter 512 or something like that. I mean, get over it. Just going by my own name. But mostly it's because when I started the Pickled Onion Night channel, I thought it was a really clever and cool Final Fantasy reference, and it turns out that everyone now thinks it's a Game of Thrones reference. So that's annoyed me. So that's why that's going. So yeah, everything's basically just going to be moved across to the one stream. So everything I do is going to be in the one place. So if you like my stuff, this is the place to come. If you don't like my stuff, go somewhere else. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. With that in mind, I'm recording this little intro to go over the top, to be edited into the older stuff that I've done. I mean, some of it has to be redone. I mean, that's just the way it is. Stuff moves forward in a couple of years, and some of the things aren't how they used to be. But some of it is perfectly fine to re-upload here. So I'm just putting this bit in at the beginning so that it looks completely seamless. So what I'll do is, unfortunately, a lot of the older stuff is watermarked. So what I'll do is I'll put a little black bar that's going to rise up here now, and that'll just cover up the watermarks so that nobody gets directed to any of the old stuff anymore. And yeah, well, look forward to the content you haven't seen. A lot of it is older stuff. Like I say, there's new stuff coming. I'm editing loads of stuff at the moment. So yeah, look forward to see you in the future. Right, now this is a video on how to replace the Blu Ray Drive in a PlayStation 3. This is the original 60 gig model. So I'm not sure what the part number of the drive is. It's I'll put that in the comments because I can't remember. Right, so basically it's just an instructional video on how to take your old, possibly broken Blu Ray drive out and replace it with a brand new one. So what you're going to need for this is a Phillips number 1 screwdriver, a small flat screwdriver, and a Torx 10, this one is. I've got 3 ramekins here for the different screws at each different stage, and these things are brilliant for holding screws in. You probably get them from any sort of cookware shop. And obviously the other thing you're going to need is a spare drive, which is here. I'm going to try not to show where I got it from because I don't want to make it look like this is a sponsored video, because it's not. But basically you can find them online, and I picked up a reconditioned drive with a new laser in it, which is the important thing, on the internet for £32. So I was quite pleased at that. Now, you don't want to get a reconditioned laser, but a reconditioned drive with a new laser in it is fine, because fitting the drive is actually relatively straightforward, although it might take a while. But fitting a laser into the drive is an absolute pain in the arse. So avoid doing that. Okay, so let's get on with it. the first thing is there's a little cover on the hard drive side of the console here. So I suppose if you're looking at the writing at the bottom end, and you just need to take that out, little plastic piece there, and inside there you should find there is a Torx 10 screw, which, oh yeah, no, I've taken that out before because I can't remember why. I had to get at something before and I just left it rattling around in the little pocket that it's in. So, and then you need to remove the cover, and it shouldn't take too much force, but it might just be wedged on a little bit there, so just make sure it's free moving. And then, cool, this is a bit difficult actually. You should be able to push it, there we go, from that end, and it just slides down and out of place here. So that's the top cover out of the way. Let's put that there, and now you can see the little pocket with the Torx screw in it. So, and you actually need quite a long Torx 10 screwdriver because it's got to go all the way to here to reclose the cover. So there, right, I'll put them in the first ramekin. Okay, then you should be able to see, you might not see on the camera, but there are little arrows pointing to the various different screws that have got to be removed in order to get the top cover off, and I think all told there is 7. So there's 1, 2, 3, 1 in there, 4, 5, S with a little arrow to it, which is the shortest screw I think, and 7, yeah. So there are 6 relatively long ones and 1 short one as far as I recall. So I'm just going to get to work getting these screws removed. Ah shit, I've got a half-size screwdriver. Never mind, I'll go and get a full-size one and edit that. Right, that should be it. Yeah, so let's get to work. I'll just edit that bit out. So, it might also be worth giving your PlayStation a little bit of a clean while you've got it open. I'm not really sure how that would be achieved, but right, put these ones in the first ramekin as well, because I'm hardly likely to get it confused with a Torx bit. Right, so as you can see, these are all long screws where the arrows are. That's one there. I think there's only, yeah, should only be 7. Ah, see, this is going to be a problem because this screwdriver isn't my magnetic one. I'm sure that disappeared long ago in the mists of time. So, that is going to be an issue. Magnetic driver, where is that? I'll find it later. Right, can get that one out easy enough. Yeah, you are going to find this a lot easier if you've got a magnetic screwdriver. Right, and this is the short screw here at the top corner. So the one basically on the same side as the power button, but opposite. That's the short screw. But it's got a little S there next to the arrow to tell you that. Right, now, this plate here should, without too much force, lift off. Oh, hang on. I think I might have missed one there, because there's another arrow here, so maybe there's... I thought there was only 7 screws, there might be 8. Let's see. That should slide forward. Wonder why it's not. Ah, there we go. And this front piece should slide forward as well. There shouldn't be any need to force it. Right, I'm going to see if I can find my magnetic tool and get these screws out, because I think they're getting in the way. Oh, of course, they won't be bloody magnetic screws because they're inside a computer. It's a stupid idea. Right, so... get in there properly. Okay, well, this is when tweezers come in handy. So, let's get them screws out. No, I didn't need to take that one out. There was only 7 screws. Right. Oh dear. This should just slide straight off, and I don't know why it's not. It should come off at the back and then slide off at the front. So you can tell it's been absolutely years since I've opened one of these up, especially this one, because I didn't think I really needed to. My goodness. Oh, there. Right. Let's move this screw out of the way in case the towel goes with it. Right, that's free. So what other bit am I missing? Ah, is that it? Yep, that's it. So, oops. Right, what bits come off here? That was there, so that's there. Oh, that's for the card reader, so... Oh no, it's not. That's the pin that's come off here. So, right. Yeah, you may have noticed there that this little screw holder for the Torx screw has come off, so I'll just put that back where it goes. Actually, I'll leave that out as well for now because it's going to be a hassle. Yeah, so it doesn't slide forward, it literally wrenches up from the back and then just wrenches forward like that. But just be careful because these plastic things can break. Goodness. Right, now we've got the drives section here. You can see this is an old model because it's got the card reader on it, and I'm just going to put that little screw back where it goes, which is here, because that was one I didn't need to undo. Because otherwise the card reader will be floating about. Now we've got the main shell off. So this is your no, you can't see very well. This is where your power and eject buttons are. So we don't need that for the moment. But what we do need is to get the drive out. So this is your Blu Ray drive here. This bit. The first thing we're going to do is try and very carefully get the power wire out. Then move the console over a bit. Now this is the bit that might be quite fiddly, is if you turn the drive over like this, you'll see there's cables all attached to it. So there's this ribbon cable here, and this is very delicate. If you break this, you've basically bricked your console. Well, not bricked it, I mean you could still use it for Netflix or something, I suppose. But yeah, so you need to be very careful which side you plug back in and which orientation. And the way that it's easiest to do that, and I should have thought about it earlier, is just get a marker pen, and on the side that's facing you when it's upside down, just put like a little dab or something, like a blue line, blue dot there, so that I know which way up that has to go. Right, and then we take our little thin screwdriver. You could do this with a fingernail, but I don't have fingernails, so, and just release the flap up and the cable will snap out. So yeah, that's how to do it. Okay, so we've disconnected it from the console, so we'll move the console down to one side. Now I have to take off the control board for the drive, and also the metal case, because the one I've bought doesn't have a metal case. So I'll do the control board first. You'll see there are 3 more of these ribbon cables, so they have to be 4 more, sorry. You've got 3 big ones, one here, and one here, and you've got a small one here. So these ones I am going to do with my fingernails because they're much you really don't want to mess with these. Right, that's that one. So just in turn take all 3 of these cables out. Now if you damage this board, you can't use any Blu Ray drive, because this board matches up with the main board, and obviously if you have to replace this, you also have to replace that. You may as well buy a new console. Right, so just taking all these off, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more tiny screws. So, oh, I forgot, radio screwdriver as well you need. I'll put all this in the notes. And sometimes there's a cat. Can't feed you at the moment, I'm very busy. Okay, so we'll take the card off first, because that's the easiest way to do it. So we've got 5 screws for the card. There's one here, and they're tiny little black screws, so you will need a radio driver for this. So we've got these 5 little tiny black screws. The light in here is actually terrible, so I hope everyone can see what I'm doing. That's 2, 3. Now, I am sort of finding my way in the dark here because it's literally got to be 4 or 5 years since I've had to do one of these, because people just don't bother fixing their PlayStations anymore. So I'm trying to remember exactly in which order to tackle things as well. And I imagine any of you that are looking at this video probably aren't the sort of people that would take your stuff to a repairman. You'd try and get it done yourself anyway. Right, so that's the control card free, but there is another cable here. There's actually 2, I don't know if you can see, and one is this is the cable from the top. But there's another cable under here which is absolutely tiny. You see, this is the one that came away from up the top, but there's this other really tiny cable, and what you have to do, it's difficult, it really is actually difficult to show this on camera, but you have to try and get your tweezers on the plastic head and only move the plastic head, because these wires will snap with no effort at all, really. And what this little tiny wire is the drive sensor, and if you lose that, it doesn't mean your drive won't work, but it means the PlayStation won't know that you've put a disc in, so you'll have to manually force feed it into the drive. So it's very important not to break this tiny cable here. I don't know if there's any way I can zoom into it. If I move this one out of the way, you'll see it. Right, I've got the board off and I've got the cable out, but it's this tiny cable here that causes everyone so much hassle when they do one of these. Yeah, it's amazing, but you know, it's designed that way, I suppose, to stop people doing what I'm doing. Right, let's get these last 2 screws out. Oh, what am I doing? Wrong screwdriver. I will probably edit out quite a lot of the boring bits of this video, or bits that I think are boring, but where I make mistakes, I'm actually really tempted to leave them in, because I imagine anyone who's watching this video trying to repair their own PS3 will probably make exactly the same mistakes. Also, if your PlayStation is the age of mine, because this is one of the first day PlayStation 3s, you will have one of these little clips on the drive as well. That actually stops it moving about so much, so whether you can believe that or not, it's to make it make less noise. And if you've ever used one of these 60 gig monsters, you'll know that it doesn't really work. Okay, So now we have to take the drive out of its metal shell, and what we have to do for that is we have to take the bottom plate off, I think, first. I think it's the bottom plate that comes away from the top, is it? I'm pretty sure the bottom plate comes off first, and I'm also sure there's like little, yeah. Alright, so if we do that very, very carefully, try not to take the ribbons with us, the bottom plate should come away, I think. Ah, no. We use the bottom plate to get the rest of the drive out, that's what we do. Right, so we've got that part of the drive out of the metal frame, and then we take the bottom plate off, which should come off relatively easily. Ugh. Nothing like build quality, is there? Right, so now we can see we've got the drive with the 3 cables sitting in their tracks, apart from this one, which is the laser cables. As if you can see, it should look like that when it's completely bare, and like this on the bottom, with the sensor cable underneath, and look like that. So if I get my new drive, or my reconditioned drive rather, it should look much the same. So there's cable there, cable there, cable there, new drive, new cable. Actually, the cables that are on mine look better than this one, but okay. Right, so if you buy a new drive, that's how it should turn up. This is a reconditioned one, but it should look exactly the same, top and bottom, as the one you've got. So I'll just turn it over for comparison. Oop. And there you are, look. Looks exactly the same. And this disc should be able to not float freely exactly, but it's, yeah. It should just sit on top. It's not meant to be attached. So if you can see side by side comparison, that's the one I'm removing. Is it? Yes, that's the one I'm removing, and that's the new one, I think. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, this is the one I'm removing because it's broken. Right, it won't read discs, so effectively for a DVD drive that is broken. Okay, and now it's just a case of doing exactly the reverse of what I just did. So that's putting this back, trying to avoid trapping any cables. So bottom plate on first, which should just fit over the top like that. There we go. Bottom plate on first, make sure the plastic bit's in. Oh, right, okay. Yep, that's the way. So make sure that's fitted absolutely snugly. These metal pieces should line up with the plastic pieces with no gap. So it should be like a freshly plastered wall. Okay, now you can see from where the slot is which way round this should go. So we'll just very, very carefully front end in first and then the back end in, I think it was, and just make sure everything fits really snug. Right, okay, now here's the tricky bit, trying to get the controller board back on. And don't do what I did for the first time I did this and forget to plug the cable in at both ends. So what we'll do is we'll get this bit on first, the tiny little fella, which should just, this little cable being here is a real pain. Right, that should just snap in there. There we go. That was my click. Right, now the power cable, which goes in there. There we go. Okay. Now, without trying to smash anything to pieces, I need to make sure this ribbon cable's free. Goodness, this is really fiddly. If you are like me and you have no concept of steady hands whatsoever, I don't know, maybe not give it a miss, but maybe don't void your warranty so easily. Right, I need to make sure all these cables are free, so I'm just going to loop them out here. I mean, these sort of thicker cables with a white on them are pretty. They're not exactly what you'd call resilient, but they will withstand a modicum of punishment. Right, and these have to line up with the two plastic clips, so that's fine. Okay, so the best way to tackle this is these tiny little black screws. That's what I want, radial screwdriver. Put these ones in first, the middle ones that go through the chip and into the base. So get these two on first. I'm sort of remembering my way about as I go here. So there's one that side, one that side. Right. Then the two tiny silver screws with the clip, if you remember, do them next. So that'll be this one there. One. Oh. Okay, perfect. Then the other. Now this way I'm putting it back together is probably the exact sequence I should have used taking it apart, but like I say, time and memory. There you go. Now this is quite fiddly because you've got to, I mean, it's not, you don't need to be strong to do it by any means, but you do have to sort of keep the case pushed together as you screw this in. And I do the middle one, and don't over tighten these because you can very, very easily break them, and if you break them you can buy replacements, but for tiny little screws they work out at about £1 each, I think, the last time I had to buy any. I mean, they may have gone down since then. I haven't checked in several years, but they were massively expensive to buy a few years ago. So if you thread one, you're bollocksed basically. Right, let's get all the cables back in where they should go. So you just have to make sure it's pushed in, and it doesn't require a lot of force. Pushed in and then push the clip down with your finger there, and I'm just going to do that for all of these. Push it in, push the clip down, and like I say, they require very, very little force at all to do that. Right. I'm glad the complicated bit's over. Right, that should be the drive pretty much put back together. Yeah. if it wasn't for the fact that this console, this particular model of the console, was backwards compatible with PlayStation 2 games, I probably wouldn't even bother doing this, to be honest. It's fiddly and lots of hassle, and everything can go wrong. It's not really like a PC where there's the availability of spare components and something will do in a jiffy. Right. So, what am I doing here? Yes, I need to put this cable back in. So again, it's exactly like the others. It just, because of the way it bends, it might take more than one attempt. Right, that seems to be it. So we've got that. We just place that back where it should go, and another thing is to make sure that the screw holes line up, because if they don't, you're going to have serious problems getting these big long screws back in. Right, and the final thing to do is to put the power back, which is this way, I think. Looks like it's that way. It will only go in one way. I'd say should. It will only go in one way. It's like a, what's the thing? It's like a fan power cable inside a PC. If you've ever used one, it will only go one way, and that's the way it has to go. Right. Now this is the difficult bit. If you have a newer PlayStation 3, the big model, it won't have all these card slots, so you'll find this next bit much easier than I will. And it's basically to line it up and try and very, very carefully push it back on. But the trouble is, because this model has the stupid card reader, it might be a bit fiddly, although it's actually worked out quite easily this time, I think. Yeah, reasonably easily, I think. Is everything matched up? No, it's not. Right, so this is where it does get a bit... Now, brute force is never a good idea, but sometimes needs must, just to get everything looking as it should be at the front. Because if everything's not matched up as it should be, then your discs will get stuck and your power buttons won't work properly and all sorts of irritations. So just make sure that it seems matched up. And that, I think that's about right. Yeah, looks like it might be. Well, we'll find out in a minute, because if the screws don't go in, it won't be right. So, yeah. So, start at the front and do the corners. That feels right. That's biting. So I'll do the power button corner first, then get the shorter of the 7 screws and put that in next, because this is sort of the business end of the console. This is where, apart from the hard drive, this is where all the moving parts are, so you really want to get this side as stable as possible. Yeah, and it's just doing these corners. Alright, so remember, if you're doing this to your PlayStation here, the arrows point to where all these screws are. Apart from this one on mine, which if you have... Well, basically, if you have the model with no card reader, you won't have this arrow anyway. But this one here is a false arrow. You've got the big screw here in the corner, and this one here, which is just holding the card reader in place. And in fact, this card reader gave up the ghost within about a year of me having the PlayStation 3, and I never ever bothered to replace it because I just don't care. I suppose if you had a PSP at the time, you might be using the Sony sticks, you know, and transferring saves or something, but I didn't have one, so I never bothered. One there too. Yep. So, no, how can I have an extra screw? I haven't got an extra screw, there's a hole I've missed at the front here. So it's just a case of screwing it all back up here. Yeah, every single one of them's locked into place, this is fine. Yeah, if there's one... Basically, as long as this one, and this one, so 1, 2 and 3 here, are all locked into place, everything else will match up, because the only bit that we've actually unscrewed and moved is the Blu Ray drive. So if these three all match up, you should be fine. There's no guarantees, but it should be. No, what I need to do first is get this little clip back in, which goes, I think, like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just a metal retainer, it doesn't actually fit or anything, it's not fitted properly anyway. Right, and then get the cover back on. So, as with all these things, there are never any 100% solutions, but I will try and make things as good as they can be. Oh no, it goes from underneath and then slides up. See, that was the problem I had before. It's the opposite of what you think. Right, and then the tricky screw to get in is that one. It's probably the trickiest screw you'll get. There. And put the little thing back. And that's it. Should hopefully be... Oh, God, these things are heavy. A working PlayStation 3. That will read all my discs. So I'll get back to doing some more playthrough videos now that I can. So yeah. 10-year-old PlayStation 3 with a new laser, but reconditioned drive, that hopefully won't cause me any more read problems and make me have to record hours and hours of footage over and over. So, I'll test it, and you'll know if it works because I'll be uploading some playthrough videos. If you've got any comments to leave, then please do. I know it's been a bit of a... what should we say? A bit of a pain, actually, doing this, but if it's helped one person to be able to fix their PlayStation and given them, you know, maybe a few years extra of happy gaming, then I'm quite glad I did it. So any comments, questions, anything like that, I'll try and help. I'm no expert by any means, but I will try and help. And if this video's been helpful to anyone, then please do like, because that helps me out. And if you want to see me tinkering about with other stuff, which I plan to do in the future, then please do subscribe. And also, if you like any of my playthrough videos, you can subscribe as well. So there you have it. Fixed PlayStation 3. So years of happy gaming ahead, hopefully, and I'll see you in the next video.